sky ripped open at exactly 3:17 Universal Time Coordinated. Not with fire or thunder. Not with Hollywood explosions. Just clean, perfect violet wounds tearing through the atmosphere above every major city on Earth at the same moment. From those wounds poured an armada that made humanity's entire space program look like children's toys. Massive obsidian black ships, each one the size of a small mountain range, slid into orbit with eerie, bone-chilling silence. No sonic booms. No engine glow. Only a deep, subaudible hum that vibrated in every human chest like a predator's growl. Then the voice came. It wasn't through radios. It wasn't through screens. It punched straight into every human mind on the planet at once, calm, ancient, arrogant, and dripping with boredom, species-designated humanity. You have exactly 7 Earth days to broadcast unconditional surrender. Lower every weapon. Dissolve every government. Open your skies and kneel. Refuse, and we will turn this primitive dirtball into molten glass. We have glassed 1,000 worlds before. You are nothing special. You never were. The violet wounds snapped shut. And then, absolute silence. No follow-up threats. No landing craft. No demands for ambassadors. Just the fleet hanging there like the sword of Damocles, cold and patient, waiting for the inevitable begging to begin. In the deep emergency bunker beneath Cheyenne Mountain, President Elena Vargas stood motionless before a wall of glowing screens showing every capital city on Earth descending into controlled chaos. People were in the streets, some praying, some hugging loved ones, some simply staring upward in stunned disbelief. But no mass riots yet. Not while the sky itself was watching. Vargas turned to the stunned room of generals, scientists, and world leaders. Her voice was steel-wrapped in quiet fury. We do not speak. Not one official word. No diplomatic channels. No press conferences. No memes. No threats. Nothing. For the next 6 days, Earth goes completely dark. Let them choke on our silence. Let their perfect models try to predict what humans do when we shut the fuck up. One general protested, "Ma'am, the public needs reassurance. They need to know we're not broken," Vargas cut him off. The silence is our first weapon. While the aliens wait for fear. Humanity gets to work in the dark. Half a world away, 240 kilometers above the Pacific, in the half-finished Lagrange shipyard, a grizzled 47-year-old space hauler named Big Mike Callahan spat tobacco juice into a zero-G recycler and stared at the distant alien fleet through a small viewport. His crew of 12, welders, roughnecks, ex-miners, crane operators, and one absolutely insane Russian woman, floated around him in the dim emergency lighting. Mike's voice came low and gravelly over their private encrypted channel. "Well, boys and girls. The suits down below just went radio silent. That means the fancy generals are out of ideas. So it's on us now. 12 dirty, beat-up space haulers. 12 pairs of calloused human hands. And about 30 kilometers of the strongest industrial tethers ever built." He grinned, teeth flashing in the low light. "These alien pricks think they're gods. They expect us to kneel. They expect primitive monkeys to cry and beg. They have no idea what humans are capable of when we get pissed off and creative." Katya Crane Queen Volkov, floating upside down in her exosuit with a welding torch in her hand, laughed like a hyena. "They brought planet-cracking lasers and shields. We're gonna hit them with physics, spite, and blue-collar bullshit. This is HFY time, boss." Young Tommy, the 24-year-old welder from Texas, looked nervous but determined. "You really think 12 of us can do anything against that fleet?" Mike locked eyes with every single one of them. "Kid, they expect armies. They expect superweapons and desperate last stands. What they don't expect is 12 stubborn-ass humans who fix shit for a living deciding to turn their own flagship into the biggest goddamn wrecking ball the moon has ever seen." He cracked his knuckles, the sound loud in the quiet module. 6 days of silence from Earth. 6 days for us to get into position. 6 days to show the galaxy why humanity doesn't surrender. We don't need to be stronger. We don't need to be smarter. We just need one really big lever. And the balls to pull it. The crew answered with fierce, quiet nods. No cheers. No grand speeches. Just the raw, stubborn fire that has always lived in human hearts when the odds say impossible. Big Mike looked out at the alien fleet again, eyes burning with defiance. Day 1 has officially begun, ladies and gentlemen. And humanity is already smiling in the dark. Supreme Overlord Crixthal paced the vast obsidian bridge of the flagship Dominion's edge, his razor-sharp mandibles clicking with growing irritation. The chamber glowed with holographic displays showing the blue planet below, beautiful, fragile, and now deathly silent. His predictive models had never failed before. 1,000 civilizations had crumbled under the same ultimatum. Most species begged within the first 6 hours. Some tried pathetic negotiations. A few even launched suicidal counterattacks. But this silence? It was unnatural. Overlord, his chief intelligence officer hissed, tentacles twitching nervously, every government frequency is dead. No diplomatic chatter. No emergency broadcasts. Their primitive internet still buzzes with civilian fear, but all official channels have gone dark. It is as if the entire species has collectively held its breath. Crixthal slammed a clawed fist onto the command throne, cracking the reinforced crystal. Impossible. These humans are emotional children. They scream at each other over trivial colors and imaginary borders. They should be panicking. They should be on their knees already. He stared at the planet turning slowly beneath them. Something cold crawled across his carapace. A feeling he hadn't experienced in 12 successful conquests, the faint, bitter taste of doubt. Continue monitoring, he ordered. If they have not spoken by day 3, we begin psychological operations. Show them images of the worlds we have burned. Remind these primitives what true power looks like. Deep in the void, 240 kilometers above Earth, the Lagrange shipyard remained almost completely dark. Only faint red work lights and headlamps pierced the blackness as 12 battered human space haulers moved like ghosts in the shadows. Big Mike Callahan floated at the center of the main module, his scarred hands gripping a tablet displaying the alien fleet's positions. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold recycled air. 6 days. They had 6 days to pull off the most insane plan in human history. All right, listen up, Mike growled over the private encrypted channel, his Texas drawl thick with determination. Those alien bastards are already confused. Good. That confusion is our best friend right now. While the world stays quiet, we work. Katia Crane Queen Volkov spun gracefully in her exosuit, welding torch flashing as she reinforced a massive magnetic grapple. They think we're scared monkeys hiding in caves. They don't know we're already out here in their backyard, building a noose out of their own arrogance. Young Tommy Rodriguez, the 24-year-old welder from Houston, carefully spooled out kilometers of carbon nanotube tether, each cable thicker than a man's arm and strong enough to haul entire asteroids. His hands shook slightly, but his voice stayed steady. Boss. You really believe 12 of US can take down their flagship? Mike turned and looked every crew member dead in the eye, welders, roughnecks, miners, and mechanics who had spent their lives fixing things the proper way said couldn't be fixed. Kid, that's exactly why this works, Mike said, voice low and fierce. They expect governments. They expect militaries with shiny toys and billion-dollar weapons. They don't expect dirty, stubborn, blue-collar humans who understand that the universe runs on simple rules. Massachusetts momentum. Leverage. He pointed toward the distant alien fleet glowing like evil stars in the blackness. We're gonna wait for their big deceleration burn on day 7. When that flagship slows down nice and predictable, we latch these tethers on, 12 of us pulling in perfect sync. Then we swing that million-ton bastard like the biggest wrecking ball God ever saw, straight into the moon. No lasers. No nukes. Just cold, dumb mass and human spite doing what fancy tech can't. Katia laughed, a wild, beautiful sound in the tension. They brought shields that stop energy weapons. Physics doesn't give a damn about shields when you hit something with the moon's own gravity well. This is pure HFY, my friends. Humanity doesn't need to be stronger. We just need to be smarter with what we've got, and meaner. The crew worked without rest. They attached stealth-coated grapples to pieces of scrap and old satellite debris, gently nudging them into position with minimal thruster burns. Every movement was calculated. Every weld had to be perfect. One mistake, one detectable heat signature, and the entire fleet would swarm them. Hours passed in grueling silence. Muscles burned. Nerves frayed. But the fire in their eyes only grew brighter. Tommy wiped sweat from his face and whispered, "You know. My little sister asked me yesterday why the sky looked scary. I told her big brothers were handling it. Didn't think I'd actually be one of them." Mike placed a heavy hand on the kid's shoulder. "That's what makes us dangerous, Tommy. We don't fight for glory or empires. We fight for the people we love. For every kid looking up at the stars hoping tomorrow comes. That's humanity's real superpower." As the clock ticked into the final hours of Day 2, the crew finished securing the first wave of tethers. The massive cables floated invisibly in the void, waiting like coiled snakes. Big Mike stared at the alien flagship in the distance, eyes burning with raw defiance. "They gave us 7 days to surrender," he muttered. "We're giving them 6 days of silence. And one day they'll never forget." The silence from Earth grew heavier. And somewhere in the dark, 12 ordinary humans were preparing to remind the galaxy why you never, ever underestimate humanity. Day 3. The silence had become a living, breathing monster. It pressed down on the alien fleet like an invisible weight. Supreme Overlord Crixthal stood rigid on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, his multiple eyes narrowed into furious slits. The holographic displays showed the same maddening image, Earth, spinning peacefully, completely mute. No surrender. No desperate pleas. No pathetic human leaders begging for mercy. "Overlord," his intelligence officer reported, voice trembling, "we have deployed full psychological operations. Every major frequency is now flooded with visions of conquered worlds, cities turned to glass, species kneeling in chains, entire civilizations wiped from existence. Still. Nothing." Crixthal's mandibles clicked violently. "These humans are broken. They should be screaming. Show them the fall of the Vexery Empire again. Increase the mental pressure. Make them see their children burning." The broadcasts intensified. Horrifying images slammed into every human mind, mountains of skulls, oceans boiled away, worlds reduced to lifeless rock. The aliens waited for the breaking point. But Earth answered with 6 more hours of perfect, terrifying silence. No official response. No counter-broadcasts. Not even a single government tweet. The silence was so absolute it felt like the entire planet had died. Or was preparing something far worse. In the hidden depths of the Lagrange shipyard, Big Mike Callahan and his 12 crew members worked like men possessed. The module was thick with the smell of sweat, burnt welding metal, and pure determination. Red emergency lights cast long shadows across their exhausted faces. Mike floated near the main viewport, staring at the distant alien fleet while reviewing their progress on a battered tablet. "Day 3, he muttered. "They're getting nervous. Good. Fear is the best fertilizer for stupid mistakes." Katia Crane Queen Volkov was welding reinforcements onto the final magnetic grapple, sparks dancing around her exosuit like angry fireflies. "Those squid-faced cowards are throwing horror movies at us now," she laughed bitterly. "My grandmother survived Stalin and Chernobyl. You think their little slideshow scares me? I've seen worse on Monday mornings." Young Tommy Rodriguez paused while carefully spooling another kilometer of ultra-strong tether. His hands were raw and blistered, but his eyes burned with something deeper than exhaustion. "Boss. I keep seeing those images in my head. The burning cities. What if we fail? What if this crazy plan doesn't work?" Mike pushed off a bulkhead and drifted over, placing a steadying hand on the young man's shoulder. His voice dropped into that deep, gravelly tone that had kept his crew going through 100 impossible jobs. "Listen to me, kid. That's exactly what they want. They want us scared. They want us doubting. But here's the truth they'll never understand. Humanity doesn't break when we're terrified. We get dangerous. We get creative. We turn that fear into fuel. He looked around at his ragtag crew, welders, roughnecks, miners, mechanics. Ordinary people who had spent their lives crawling through tight spaces, fixing broken machines, and doing the jobs nobody else wanted. We're not soldiers. We're not billionaires with fancy toys. We're the people who actually build shit. And right now, we're building the biggest fuck you the galaxy has ever seen. Katia finished her weld and spun toward them, faceplate fogged with effort. They think they're superior because they have lasers and shields. But physics doesn't care about their fancy tech. Mass times acceleration equals force. We're about to teach them that lesson with their own flagship as the textbook. The crew had made massive progress. 12 heavy haulers were now positioned among old satellite debris and scrap, almost invisible to alien sensors. Massive tethers, each one capable of hauling city-sized asteroids, were spooled and ready. Stealth grapples had been quietly attached to drifting pieces of junk, slowly nudged into perfect alignment over the last 48 hours. No bright thruster burns. No radio chatter. Just cold, patient, blue-collar ingenuity. Tommy wiped sweat from his brow. My dad used to say the most dangerous animal on Earth isn't the lion or the shark. It's a cornered man with nothing left to lose. I think he was right. Mike grinned fiercely. Damn right. These aliens gave us 7 days to surrender like cowards. Instead, we gave them 3 days of silence and 12 humans turning their arrogance into a weapon. This isn't about winning with better guns. This is about winning with bigger balls and better ideas. He raised his battered coffee bulb like a toast. To humanity. The species that looks death in the face and says, "Not today, motherfucker." The crew answered with quiet, determined nods. No loud cheers. Just the raw, unbreakable spirit that had carried humans across oceans, to the moon, and now into the teeth of an alien invasion. As the hours of Day 3 ticked down, the final major tethers were secured. The trap was nearly set. 12 ordinary space haulers against the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Big Mike stared out at the Dominion's edge glowing ominously in the distance, his eyes full of fire and promise. They think silence means weakness, he whispered. They have no idea it means we're loading the gun. The silence from Earth grew heavier, thicker, more menacing. And in the cold void above the planet, 12 humans kept working, smiling in the dark, ready to remind the universe exactly why humanity is the most dangerous species alive. Day 4. The silence had grown teeth. Supreme Overlord Crixthal could no longer sit on his command throne. He prowled the bridge of the Dominion's edge like a caged predator, his mandibles twitching with barely contained rage. The blue planet below continued its lazy rotation, mocking him with its peaceful silence. 3 days remain, he roared, slamming his claw into a console hard enough to crack the display. And still these vermin say nothing. No surrender. No defiance. No desperate bargaining. What kind of species is this? His intelligence officer shrank back. Overlord, their civilian networks are filled with fear and speculation, but every official channel remains black. It is unnatural. Our psychological campaigns have been broadcast at maximum intensity. They should be broken by now. Crixthal stared at the tactical hologram showing his flawless fleet. Broadcast a direct message from me. Tell these primitives that their silence will cost them their cities. Make them understand the price of defiance. The message went out across every human mind once again. 3 days remain. Speak, or we begin burning your world from orbit. Earth answered with nothing but 6 more hours of heavy, suffocating silence. Not one government responded. Not one leader appeared. The entire planet seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something massive in the dark. That something was 12 ordinary humans in the Lagrange shipyard. Big Mike Callahan floated in the center of the main operations module, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, his jaw set like iron. The walls around him hummed with quiet activity as his crew pushed themselves to the limit. Day 4, Mike said, his deep Texas voice steady but tired. They're starting to crack. You can feel it in the way their drones are swarming. Good. Let them sweat. Katya Volkov was securing the final reinforcements on the primary tether spool, her exosuit covered in fresh weld marks. I saw their new message, she snorted. Burn our cities? These idiots still think we're going to beg. They have no clue what's coming. Young Tommy Rodriguez carefully checked the magnetic grapples one by one, his hands moving with practiced precision despite the exhaustion. Boss, the last batch of dumb mass is in position, old reactor cores, scrap hulls, and those asteroid fragments we quietly collected. When we swing that flagship, it's gonna hit the moon like the wrath of God. Mike nodded, pride swelling in his chest as he looked at his ragtag crew. These weren't elite soldiers. These were welders, crane operators, miners, and mechanics, the kind of people who kept the world running when nobody was watching. He pushed off a bulkhead and drifted closer to them. Listen up, all of you, Mike said, voice thick with emotion. This ain't about glory. This ain't even about survival. This is about proving something the galaxy keeps forgetting. Humanity doesn't quit. When the odds are impossible, when the enemy is bigger, stronger, and meaner, Day 5. The alien fleet was beginning to fracture. Supreme Overlord Crixthal stood motionless on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, his once impeccable posture now rigid with barely contained fury and something far more dangerous, fear. The tactical displays painted a disturbing picture. Minor formation drifts had appeared among the smaller vessels. Drone patrols had tripled. 3 captains had requested permission to reposition without clear reason. The silence from the blue planet below was no longer just annoying. It had become a psychological weapon that was slowly dismantling his perfect invasion force. 2 days remain, Crixthal hissed through clenched mandibles. Yet these humans remain mute. Our models predicted total collapse by now. What madness is this? His second-in-command trembled as he delivered the report. Overlord, our psychological operations have reached maximum saturation. Every human on the planet has seen visions of glassed worlds 100 times over. Their civilian channels are chaotic with fear, conspiracy theories, and prayers. But still no official response. It is as if the entire species has chosen collective madness over surrender. Crixthal slammed both claws onto the command rail. Then prepare the first orbital strikes. Target their largest cities. If silence is their answer, we will give them something to scream about. Deep in the shadows of the Lagrange shipyard, 12 exhausted but unbreakable humans were putting the finishing touches on a plan that would rewrite history. Big Mike Callahan floated in the center of the main module, reviewing the final alignment data on his battered tablet. His eyes were sunken, his beard scruffy, but the fire in them burned hotter than ever. 5 days of near non-stop work in zero-G had taken its toll, yet none of his crew had faltered. Day 5, Mike announced over the private channel, his gravelly voice filled with quiet pride. They're nervous. You can see their formation getting sloppy. Their drones are flying like they're expecting ghosts. Perfect. Katya Crane Queen Volkov finished locking down the last primary tether spool, her exosuit scarred and blackened from constant welding. She spun toward the group with a fierce grin. Those tentacled cowards are losing their shit. 5 days of pure silence from Earth and they're already cracking. Imagine what Day 7 is gonna do to them. Young Tommy Rodriguez carefully ran final diagnostics on the magnetic grapples, his hands steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. Boss, all 12 haulers are loaded with maximum dumb mass, reactor cores, scrap plating, old satellite husks, and those asteroid chunks we snuck into position. When we swing that flagship, it's gonna carry enough kinetic energy to crack the moon's crust. Mike pushed off the wall and drifted into the middle of his crew. He looked at each of them, these ordinary, blue-collar heroes who had answered the call without hesitation. Gather round, he said, voice thick with emotion. I want you to hear this. We're not special forces. We're not geniuses with fancy degrees. We're welders, haulers, miners, and mechanics. The kind of people the world forgets about until something needs fixing. And right now, we're fixing the goddamn galaxy. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. These aliens came here expecting primitive monkeys to kneel. They gave us 7 days to surrender because their models told them we'd break. Instead, we gave them 5 days of the most terrifying silence they've ever experienced. While the whole world held its breath, 12 of us out here in the dark turned their arrogance into a weapon. Katia's voice cracked with raw passion. They think technology makes them superior. But we understand something they never will: the universe runs on simple, brutal rules. Massachusetts momentum. Leverage. A bigger lever always wins. And right now, we're holding the biggest lever humanity has ever built. Tommy looked up, eyes shining. My little sister is down there right now, looking at the sky, scared. But tonight when I talk to her on the tight beam, I'm gonna tell her that big brothers are handling it. That humans don't surrender. We improvise. We fight dirty. We win ugly. Mike placed his hand on Tommy's shoulder, then looked to the rest of the crew. That's what makes us dangerous. We feel fear. And we weaponize it. We love our families so hard we'll break the sky itself for them. We don't need perfect plans or God-tier tech. We just need to be stubborn enough to say not today when the universe tells us to quit. The crew floated closer, forming a tight circle in the dim red light. No grand cheers. Just quiet, fierce determination, the same spirit that carried humans across oceans, up mountains, and into space. They had done the impossible. 12 heavy haulers were now perfectly positioned among the debris field. 30+ kilometers of industrial tether were spooled and ready. Stealth grapples were locked onto invisible anchor points near the alien flagship. Everything was set for the final burn on day 7. Big Mike stared out the viewport at the Dominion's edge glowing ominously in the distance. Tomorrow we go loud, he said softly. Tomorrow 12 regular humans are gonna teach an empire what happens when you corner humanity. He turned back to his crew, voice rising with pride. This is why we're still here. This is why no empire, no matter how advanced, has ever been able to keep us down. Because when push comes to shove, humanity doesn't kneel. We swing. The silence from Earth had never felt more powerful. 8 billion humans stood unknowingly behind these 12 heroes, waiting for the roar that would shake the stars. And in the cold darkness above their homeworld, the most beautiful act of defiance in human history was only hours away. Day 6. Midnight. The silence across Earth had become absolute, a heavy, pregnant quiet that pressed down on every soul on the planet. 8 billion humans held their breath together, instinctively knowing something monumental was coming. In the cold void above, Supreme Overlord Crixthal stood broken on the bridge of the Dominion's edge. His once proud mandibles hung limp. His fleet, once a perfect formation of terror, now drifted in nervous clusters. Mutters of dissent rippled through the ranks. 3 ships had already requested emergency withdrawal. Final warning at dawn, Crixthal rasped, voice hoarse. If they do not surrender by sunrise on day 7, we burn every major city. These humans will learn the price of defiance. His second-in-command could barely speak. Overlord. Their silence has infected the crew. Some are calling this world cursed. Crixthal stared at the peaceful blue planet and felt true terror for the first time in his long life of conquest. He had no idea how right he was. In the Lagrange shipyard, 12 exhausted, wired, and utterly magnificent humans made their final preparations. Big Mike Callahan floated in the lead hauler, staring at the glowing alien flagship through the viewport. His hands were steady, but his heart hammered like a war drum. 5 days of brutal work had led to this single moment. All crews, final check, Mike said over the encrypted channel, his deep Texas voice calm and strong. This is it. No turning back. One by one, his crew checked in. Katia Crane Queen Volkov's voice crackled with fierce joy. Tethers hot. Grapples armed. Ready to swing this bastard straight to hell. Young Tommy Rodriguez, voice thick with emotion, added, dumb mass locked. All 12 haulers synced. Let's show them what humans are made of, boss. Mike looked at the faces appearing on his screen, these ordinary people who had become legends in the making. Listen to me, he said, voice cracking with raw pride. We're not heroes in capes. We're not super soldiers. We're welders, haulers, mechanics, and roughnecks. The working class backbone of humanity. And today, we're going to do what no empire in the galaxy ever expected, beat them with nothing but cables, physics, and pure human stubbornness. He paused, letting the weight settle. They gave us 7 days to surrender because they thought we were weak. Instead, we gave them 6 days of the most terrifying silence they've ever known. While the world stayed quiet, we turned their arrogance into a weapon. This isn't just about survival. This is humanity saying fuck you to the stars. Katia laughed through happy tears. They came for primitives. They found the craziest, toughest, most beautiful species in the universe. Tommy whispered, for my little sister. For every kid looking up right now. Mike nodded. For all of them. For every human who ever dared to dream bigger than their chains. Today we remind the galaxy why humanity doesn't kneel. At 5:47 on the morning of Day 7, the alien fleet began its final deceleration burn toward Earth orbit. Big Mike roared over the open channel, broadcasting for the first time in 6 days, "Hook yem, you beautiful bastards." 12 magnetic grapples fired at once. 12 massive tethers snapped taut with terrifying force. The Dominion's edge lurched violently as 12 battered human haulers poured every ounce of thrust into the swing. Alarms screamed across the alien bridge. Crixthal bellowed in rage and terror as his flagship was yanked sideways like a toy on a string. What is this? Big Mike laughed like a madman, gripping the controls. Bigger lever, you arrogant prick. Using the flagship's own colossal velocity against it, the 12 haulers swung the million-ton Leviathan in a deadly arc. Shields flared uselessly. The moon rushed up to meet them at catastrophic speed. The impact was biblical. The Dominion's edge slammed into the lunar surface with the force of a small apocalypse. A blinding white flash lit up the night side of Earth. The flagship tore itself apart in a storm of fire, shattered hull plates, and raw kinetic fury. A massive cloud of dust and debris rose from the moon like the wrath of an angry god, visible from every continent. Secondary explosions ripped through the alien fleet as panic spread like wildfire. Formation collapsed. Ships scattered in blind terror. Big Mike keyed every frequency on Earth and beyond, his voice raw, triumphant, and unforgettable. Hey you galactic assholes. Welcome to Earth. We don't do surrender. We don't do kneeling. We do humanity. Fuck yeah. Across the entire planet, 8 billion humans erupted in one deafening, thunderous roar. People cheered in streets, cried in bunkers, hugged strangers, and screamed to the sky in pure, primal pride. In the lead hauler, Mike floated back in his seat, exhausted and grinning ear to ear as his crew hooped and hollered. We did it, Tommy whispered in awe. 12 regular humans. Katia punched the air. No. 12 legends. Big Mike looked down at the beautiful blue planet below, eyes shining with tears. This is why we survive. This is why no empire can ever own us. Because when the darkness comes, humanity doesn't beg. We build. We fight. We swing. And we win ugly. The silence was finally broken. And the universe would never again underestimate the dirty, stubborn, magnificent species called humanity. Subscribe.